Hey everyone, welcome to Kicking with Kipes. I'm Kipes, and today is January the 3rd, 2025. We only got a couple games on the schedule tonight, so it's Friday night. Let's waste no time and let's get into it. Our first game of the evening is the Florida Panthers at home against the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Florida Panthers, they end up winning 3-2 in a shootout against the very mediocre Pittsburgh Penguins. The two goal scorers in regulation for the Florida Panthers were Matthew Tkachuk and Gustav Forsling. We will get back to Matt Tkachuk in just a second, but the Panthers, they are now 24-14-2. They're having a very good season. They are also winning on the back of a back-to-back. They lost last night, which was very good for Toronto Maple Leafs because we talked about it last night, but the Leafs won while all their divisional rivals lost. The Florida Panthers, not only did they lose last night, they had lost 3 or 4 games before heading into this game, so this was a much-needed win against a team that they should beat 10 times out of 10. Spencer Knight, he was in net for the Florida Panthers tonight. He made 29 saves, a very good effort from the backup goaltender of the Florida Panthers. In the shootout, Knight did save both shots that he faced, one against Sid the Kid, Sidney Crosby, and if I'm being honest, I was watching it during the shootout and Crosby's effort was very lackluster. I'm not taking away from the player that Sidney Crosby is. We all know his storied career so far, but just he walked in, kind of tried to beat him short side, shoot across Spencer Knight's body, and he just stuck out the pad, and it was an extremely easy save for the goaltender on a Hall of Famer. The two goal scorers in regulation for the Pittsburgh Penguins, one was Sidney Crosby. I can't take anything away from this guy, but I just had to mention that mediocre effort in the shootout. Rickard Rakell, he also scored, and both of those Pittsburgh goals were on the power play. Tristan Jarry in net for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He also had a pretty good game. He made 31 saves in the losing effort. It is also hard to say that Tristan Jarry got the loss because it was in the shootout. I absolutely despise the shootout, and I think it should be taken away from the game immediately, but hopefully in the new CBA that they do take it away. I just think that if you bump the 5-minute overtime from 5 minutes to 10 minutes or whatever length of time that you deem right, that eventually these teams will just get so tired. 3-on-3 is an intense amount of hockey. I just think that after a certain amount of time, somebody's going to make a stupid mistake because they are so tired, and the other team will just go down and score, ending the game the way it should be in open play. You have the people arguing, saying teams will just play more defensively and the game will be slower, but you can add on rules, I guess, just to make sure that teams don't do that and don't act like idiots. I just think it's a very easy solution to end the game quicker and maybe quicker, and just eventually it'll happen. And the shootout is just so boring. It's an individual skills competition. I know a lot of people love the shootout, but at the same time, I find it extremely boring in today's game. Both Spencer Knight and Tristan Jarry, they did make 3 saves in overtime to get them to the shootout. I mentioned that we were going to be coming back to Matthew Tkachuk, and here we are. He was called for an unsportsmanlike penalty and a 10-minute misconduct for a dirty play about 5 minutes left in the second period, but he did not let that faze him because he came right back onto the ice and put the Panthers ahead 2-1 in this game. About 10 minutes, I think it was, in the third period, deflecting a Carter Verhaeghe shot out front. Matthew Tkachuk has got to be careful. He just got called for embellishment the other night, and now he's got a big penalty and a game misconduct. He's just got to be extremely careful with the people in charge of the NHL because he's starting to create a slight little pattern of bad behavior, and it might catch up to him. It might not, but he is that type of player that loves to walk the line of very good, very, very good player, but also kind of dirty, he's the kind of player that you absolutely love to have on your team, but you absolutely hate to play against. On that note, the Florida Panthers, they win 3-2 in a shootout at home against the Pittsburgh Penguins. We head on over to St. Louis at the Enterprise Center, where the St. Louis Blues are facing off against the Ottawa Senators, and the hometown team wins 4-0. The St. Louis Blues, they're starting to string a couple wins together, and they are coming off of a big win at Wrigley Field against the Chicago Blackhawks the other night. Captain Braden Shen was one of the goal scorers for the St. Louis Blues. Jordan Binnington was in net for the Blues. He made 20 saves for his 18th career NHL shutout. The Blues, they improved to 19-17-4. They are looking a lot better than they were even a week ago. They have now won 2 straight, including that outdoor game at Wrigley Field, and they have won 4 of 5 games. So yes, they are looking better. I still have my reservations to say that they will make the playoffs. I can say that they will definitely be in contention if they continue this play, obviously, but we'll see. Jim Montgomery is a very good coach, and I have full faith that he can get his full potential out of this team. The other goal scorer for the St. Louis Blues was Brendan Saad. He got 3 goals in a natural hat-trick effort. Absolutely awesome performance from Brendan Saad tonight. Brendan Saad, he completed his natural hat-trick with about 2 minutes to go in the third period for the 4-0 final. It was on a 2-on-1 with a teammate, and he just decided to keep the puck for himself a little bit selfishly. But when you're riding high in a game and you're feeling so good about your play, you keep it on a 2-on-1 and you take the shot, and he did just that, scoring his hat-trick goal. For the Ottawa Senators, though, they did get shut out in this game, so obviously no goal scoring to talk about for the Sens. They are now 19-17-2, almost identical record to their counterpart in this game, but it's kind of obvious that they don't have that all-star goalie, Linus Ullmark, in net. And it's almost as soon as he went down, their play went down. And it's like they don't have full faith in whatever goaltender's behind them right now if it's not Linus Ullmark. Granted, though, this was the 8th game of a 9-game away span for the Senators, so they haven't been at home for a long time. Yes, they were probably at home for Christmas, but playing all these games on the road is extremely dragging. It's tiring. It's horrible having to go into a different barn every night and having to play against a team getting booed all night as well. They have so far only broken even on this road trip. They are 4-4. Hopefully they can go home 5-4 and hopefully stay in the contention for a playoff spot. But without Linus Ullmark, I do have my reservations to say that they will make the playoffs or even be in contention, because without Linus Ullmark, they look like a completely different team. This was also their 4th loss in 5 games, and like I just mentioned, this little streak of bad games has almost started immediately after Ullmark went down, so it's hard not to make those comparisons and say they desperately need a good goalie behind them to have that mojo and play well as well. And that is also not a very good thing to do, because you should have faith in your other goaltenders, but I guess they just have a bad track record of underperforming with these goalies. So as soon as another goalie comes in net for the Senators, these players just seem to shell up and almost, I don't know what the right word is, but they almost tighten up. They make bad plays, bad passes, and it just turns out to be a 4-0 loss against the St. Louis Blues, obviously. So the Ottawa Senators, they get embarrassed in St. Louis, losing 4-0 to the hometown team on Friday night. We go to the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois, where the Chicago Blackhawks are facing off against the Montreal Canadiens, and the Blackhawks win 4-2 against the Canadiens. Nick Foligno, he got 2 goals in this game. Tyler Bertuzzi and Patrick Maroon also added tucks in this game. So the wily veterans of the game, they took the game over for the Blackhawks and got them the victory finally. Arvid Soderblom was in net for the Chicago Blackhawks. He made 38 saves. Absolutely outstanding performance from the goaltender. Not only did he have 40 shots against him in this game, he made 19 saves in the second period. That is an insane amount of shots in the second period to face, and he just stood his ground, and he made a lot of 10-bell saves, just insane saves. One last minute right pad, just shooting right out there. And yeah, it was just such a good performance from this goaltender who really needed this performance. The Blackhawks, they improve to 13-24-2. Just still a dreadful record to say out loud. They played their first game since getting absolutely embarrassed on what you can say is home ice at Wrigley Field. For the Montreal Canadiens, Cole Caulfield and Emil Heineman got the goals for the Canadiens. Sam Montembeault, he made 22 saves between the pipes for the Habs. The Habs, they dropped to 17-18-3. Not a great record at all right now. They had won 3 in a row, which you cannot ignore at all. Mike Matheson, defenseman for the Canadiens, he had a pretty good game, getting an assist on both goals. The other night, I was talking about how my cousin DM'd me and said, hey, the Montreal Canadiens, they're a very good team. I'm mad at you, blah, 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 blah. And I was kind of ignoring the fact that he was saying that because, yeah, the Canadiens were looking like a good hockey club. and they were starting to sneak up the standings and making your fans somewhat believe that you could potentially be a playoff team. Shame on you, Montreal Canadiens. You cannot go into Chicago and lose to the Blackhawks the way that they're playing right now and consider yourself any form of a playoff team. As much as I think it would be fun to have a couple more Canadian teams or different teams in the playoffs to spice things up a little bit, if you lose to the Chicago Blackhawks the way that they did today, I know they got a lot of shots and they didn't have a couple players like Patrick Laine, who was out with flu-like symptoms, but you just can't do that. I know people will come at me and say the Leafs, they always lose to Chicago as well. And yes, sometimes they are right. And I am super pissed off when they do that. But if you're a team that is telling or making it look like to your fans that you could potentially rise up the standings and make a playoff push, you just can't do that. So mini rant over. The Habs, they end up losing 4-2 against the Chicago Blackhawks in Chicago on Friday night. We head on over to Edmonton, where the Edmonton Oilers are playing the Anaheim Ducks. And the Edmonton Oilers, they got a little bit of a scare from these Ducks. They only win 3-2 at home. Leon Draisaitl continues to be Leon Draisaitl, absolute mutant in this NHL season. He scores with about a minute and a half left in the game to put the Oilers ahead. This extends his point streak to 13 games. 25 points in 13 games. 11 goals, 14 assists. That is absolutely outrageous. Just to add on to the accolades for the German, he leads the NHL with 28 goals. He has the lead by 5 goals. That is just crazy good right now. And he also leads the NHL with 9 game-winning goals, so he comes up extremely clutch for these Edmonton Oilers at the right time. Darnell Nurse, he got a goal and an assist for the Edmonton Oilers as well. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, he also added a goal. Stuart Skinner was in net for the Edmonton Oilers tonight. He made 27 saves in the win. The Oilers, they improved to 23-12-3 and maintained that third place division, or that third spot in the division. The Oilers, they have also won 2 of 3 games, so they're starting to pick it up a little bit. It's not a crazy run of games, but 2 of 3 is still a very commendable thing. For the Anaheim Ducks, Brett Leeson and Jackson Lacombe, 2 guys you don't usually say when talking about goal scoring for the Anaheim Ducks, they both scored. And Lucas Dostal, he continues to have a very impressive season on a very under-impressive team. That's not really a word, but whatever. Underperforming team. And are they even underperforming? I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just rambling on to make it not sound so stupid. But Dostal, he made 23 saves for the Ducks. They dropped to 16, 18-4. They had won 3 in a row after winning against Winnipeg in overtime the other night. So they are doing a lot better right now than a lot of people would have assumed, because these are 2 very good teams that they had to play. And they pushed it to the brink in both these games. They beat Winnipeg, which is absolutely huge. And then they push Edmonton to just about a minute and a half left in the game with a tie game. So it is extremely impressive that they did this against these 2 juggernauts of the NHL. So I'm not going to put too much stock into this loss. So yeah, good job, Ducks. You're doing pretty good, but we all know who you really are, and that is a lower tier team in this league right now. Just a little side note of this game, the Ducks, they're wearing their new jerseys of the season. They kind of rebranded. They went back to the old Duck logo, which I absolutely love. Their home jerseys, all orange, which is my favorite color, so I absolutely love those home jerseys. And their away jerseys, they're a bit different, but I still really like that jersey. But the orange and white of the Ducks against the blue and orange of the Edmonton Oilers, it was just a very visually appealing game to watch. And I know that sounds extremely niche and extremely, maybe it even sounds a little weird, but it just looked very good on TV. You can have teams like Vancouver and Nashville. Like tonight, I'm watching it right now on the side of the computer, but it's just not as nice to look at as these 2 teams did tonight. And yeah, as a guy that loves jerseys, you all know that by now. It is a lot of fun just to take a look at things, but yeah, just a little side note for this game. Moving on from that rambling nonsense, the Ducks, they lose 3-2 to the Oilers in Edmonton on Friday night. Our last game of the evening is in Vancouver, British Columbia, where the Vancouver Canucks are facing off against the Nashville Predators, and the measly Nashville Predators, they win 3-0 with UC Saros getting a shutout. Like I just mentioned, UC Saros, he got a shutout in this game. He made 27 saves in the winning effort today. It was his 4th shutout of the season and his 27th in his NHL career. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer goalie, bar none. I would argue people that would say that. Even though he hasn't won a cup yet, he is still an all-time goalie in this league. And quick side note, 4th shutout of the season for UC Saros on this Nashville Predators team. That sounds absolutely outrageous because of how bad this Nashville Predators team has been this season. This was only their 12th win of the season, and they've had 4 shutouts? That doesn't make any sense to me. It is truth, but it doesn't make any sense to me. How does a team with only 12 wins have 4 shutouts on the season? So they're extremely good in games that they win somehow, or extremely crap, because that makes no sense. Well, it makes sense mathematically because it's true, but at the same time, it realistically, how is that possible? Like I just said, the Nashville Predators, they have only won 12 games this season. Their record now stands at 12, 20, and 7. Pathetic compared to what we were expecting from this team at the beginning of the season. They ended a 3-game losing streak where they were outscored 15-7. This is a pathetic team. I don't know what is going on. Maybe it's just one of those weird things in the Matrix where a team just doesn't do good when expected to, and they bounce back the next year and make the playoffs and go on a crazy run. But at this moment, this is absolutely embarrassing from the Nashville Predators. I'm saying all this as they did get a win tonight. They scored 3 goals. They got a shutout, and I'm just dumping on their parade. So we'll talk about the positives for the Nashville Predators. Gustav Nyquist and Colton Sissons, Steven Stamkos, they all got the 3 goals for the Nashville Predators. The 2 goals at the end of the game were on the empty net by Nyquist and Sissons. They each got a goal and an assist on those 2 empty net goals. Steven Stamkos, his goal does count as the game-winning goal, so that's a positive for him as he had an extremely slow start to the season. Him and Marchessault coming over through free agency and really struggling in their new home. On the other side of the ice, we got the Vancouver Canucks. They were at home and laid an absolute dump for their home fans. Absolutely embarrassing to do this against the Nashville Predators. Kevin Lankinen was in net. He made 16 saves in the losing effort. The Canucks, they dropped to 18, 12, and 8. They were on the back of a back-to-back after a 4-3 shootout win against the Kraken on Thursday. So yeah, they won against the Kraken, but it's the Kraken. They aren't very good at all either. So 2 mediocre or very bad teams were playing against the Vancouver Canucks, and the Vancouver Canucks barely or couldn't deal with these teams. So that's not a very good thing for this squad. The Canucks, they only have 1 regulation win in the past 8 games. They are 2-3-3 in that span, and they haven't won consecutive games since the end of November 29th to be exact. Since that November 29th and December 1st back-to-back wins, they have gone 5-5-5 in that span. That is atrocious for Rick Tocchet and his team. Granted, they don't have Quinn Hughes or Elias Pettersson in this lineup right now because of injuries, but according to me, that is not an excuse for this team. They have to pick it up. They are not doing good right now. I got to see them lose at the Saddle Dome on the other night on New Year's Eve, but yeah, they are just not doing good at all right now. Special teams were not a factor in this game. Vancouver, they went 0-for-3 on the power play and failed to get a single shot on 2 of those 3 power plays. So it was a horrible game from start to finish, special teams, whatnot for the Vancouver Canucks. It was a night to forget. Nashville, they were also 0-2 on the power play, but that is kind of expected from this Predators team. So I'm just laying an absolute dump on these 2 teams. They are both, yeah, Vancouver has a okay record, but I would expect them to have a better record at this point in the season. Nashville, I expected them to be better all season long, but I am just expecting this from the Nashville Predators. Yes, they won 3-0, but at the same time, there are not many positives of their season right now. But the Nashville Predators, they win 3-0 against the Vancouver Canucks in Vancouver tonight on Friday night. All right, that is it for this video. We only had about 5 games on the schedule tonight. We have 12 games to cover tomorrow night, so I hope to see you then. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for kicking it with me, Kipes, and I hope to see you tomorrow where we got those games to cover. But thank you so much for the support so far. I know it isn't a ton of people. A lot of people would say, yeah, you only got so many followers and whatnot, but that isn't what means the most to me. Those of you who watch these videos, thank you so much for watching. It means the absolute world that somebody would like to watch these videos and spend some time with me and covering these games. The NHL is an amazing league. Hockey is an amazing sport. So thank you so much for being here. We will see you tomorrow night. Have an amazing night.